Between Me and You. Patrick Fyffe in character, today as Bronwen Tarrack in High Heels and Humbugs.
My husband had brought the letter up with the morning tea, like, you know. You gonna go then, he says. No, I says, who wants to go to an old school reunion, I says. It's all in the past anyway, isn't it? Oh, go on, he says. It'll be a day out. I run you there in the car. And what would you do, I says, while I was there if I was to go? Have a walk round town, he says. Be on hand to bring you back. Go on, you know you're dying to. Well, that's just where you're wrong, I says. But of course I went, didn't I? Had to. Curiosity. Well, 30 years is a long time. Bronwen Road Secondary Modern. Do you know I hadn't given the old place a thought since I walked through the school gates for the last time. Glad to be gone. The one nice thing about it was the views. Lovely they were, right across the valleys. I probably spent more time looking through the windows at the views than I did looking at the blackboard. My best friend in school had been a girl called Gwyneth I hadn't seen her for, I don't know how long. Well, since I'd left school, because 5 years after I'd left, I'd moved away and then I'd married, see. Oh, Gwyneth, she was a real laugh. Always a one for the boys. She was a flirt, but no harm in her. She just liked a bit of fun. Fancied herself as another Rita Hayworth. Lovely long black hair she had. Used to bob about on her shoulders when she walked. We all envied her, that hair. My mum used to say, there's gypsy blood in that girl, mark my word. Well, I wouldn't mind buying a few pegs off her, my brother used to say. All the boys fancied her. Anyway, I'd no sooner arrived and shown my invitation and gone into the old assembly hall. Packed it was. When this woman comes straight up to me. Hello, Bron, she says. Remember me, Gwyneth Carlson? I was hoping I might see you here today. Well, I couldn't believe my eyes. Grey hair piled up on top, you know. No makeup, on-rim spectacles. This was never Gwyneth Carlson. I just didn't know her for the same person. Looked twice my age, she did. And we were in the same class together. Anyway, when I'd got over the shock, I says, oh, lovely to see you, Gwyneth. You're looking ever so well. And she gave me a little hug like, and she says, I'd have known you anywhere. You haven't changed a bit. I couldn't really say that to her because she had changed, see. All the glamour gone. You didn't become a film star then, I said, and laughed, you know. No, she says, I decided on the teaching profession instead. You a teacher, I said. Yeah, she says. Well, you could have knocked me down. Gwyneth Carlson, a teacher. And where do you teach, I asked her. Yeah, she says, at Bronwen Road. Well, I hope you haven't turned out to be another Miss Harper, I says. And she laughs. Because Miss Harper was our teacher, see. Nasty bit of work she was. Cruel woman. Oh, we really hated her. If hate was the right word to describe what you felt when you wanted to be rid of something, then that was what we felt for Miss Harper. Very plain woman. Spinster she was, and likely to remain so. Lived with her brother. Now, he was minister at our local chapel, and the house they lived in went with a job. Twins they were, like peas in a pod. Can't hardly tell them apart, my brother used to say. I bet if you gave her a cassock and he wore her earrings, they'd both preach on Sunday and you wouldn't know they changed places. So what do you teach then, Gwyneth, I said. Oh, I specialise in science and the arts, and I'm also assistant head teacher. Oh, congratulations, I said. And then she got all confidential like. And I think I shall be in line for the top job when old Mr. Thomas retires. Oh, that'll be nice for you, I said. Well, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't the Gwyneth Carlson I remembered. Mind, I'd noticed she wasn't wearing a wedding ring, so I says, you didn't take the plunge then? And she looked at me like, marriage, you know? Oh, no, she says. There was only ever one man for me, but he left the area when he was 18, went to live in the West Country, and we lost touch. Somehow I just didn't bother after that. Oh, I says. But you could tell there was still something there, like, bit sad, really. Anyway, I was just about to go and get myself a cup of tea when this man came over and said hello. Daffyd Griffiths it was. He used to sit in the desk behind me. His hair was thin and a bit on top, you know, and he was filling out everywhere else. But when he smiled, it was the same Daffyd. Remember the Humbugs, he says. Oh, will I ever forget them, I says. He laughed, you know. You know, he says, I've only got to see an humbug and I think of you. Oh, I couldn't forget that day. That was Miss Harper at her worst. We'd had her for all afternoon, and me being my usual self, I was staring out of the window at the view, chewing an humbug. So I didn't really hear her the first time, so when she called again, she really shouted, "I'm not going to ask you again, Bronwen Tarrack. Or do you want me to come and drag you down here in front of all your chums? Well, do you?" She was practically at fever pitch, screeching like a seagull, she was. So I thought, well, I'm not going to rush like, but I thought I'll just see how far I can push you without tempting fate too much. So I got up very slow from my desk and I started to walk down to the front. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, burning holes in my back they were. And it was Daffy Griffiths who whispered to me, "She's going to give it to you today, good and proper." "Thank you for honouring us with your company today, Bronwen," Miss Harper says. "Now, perhaps you would be good enough to enlighten us as to what it is you have got in your mouth." Well, I just stood staring at her for a moment like. "What is it that is so irresistible that you cannot wait to eat until after school?" She was getting into her stride now. "Come on," she says, "we're all waiting." But the humbugs had stuck to my teeth, see, and I wasn't able to say anything. I could only make a sort of blaring sound, you know. Then I rolled my eyes and someone sniggered. "Silence," Miss Harper shouts. "This is not a circus. Any more of this and you'll all stay behind for scrub and mop." That was one of her pet punishments to be avoided at all costs. It was where those who had to stay behind were given a scrubbing brush and a mop and made to clean the playground from end to end. So nobody sniggered after that. "Well, Bronwen, I'm waiting," she said. I couldn't shift them. They were still stuck like. I could only go sort of... "Right, that's it," she says. "I've given you your chance. You have shown flagrant disregard for my rules, and so you leave me no alternative but to punish you." And before I could draw breath, she brought her hand up and swiped me across the face. And before I got over that, she'd swiped me on the other side too. I tell you, it happened so sudden. The shock, I suppose. She must have dislodged the humbugs, and they shot out of my mouth like cannon fire. Ever so rapid it was. One landed in her cardigan pocket, and the other one somehow managed to lodge itself on the top of her glasses. It was ever so hard not to laugh, because with this thing on her glasses, she looked like something out of a horror film. Talk about a tense atmosphere. We just stood staring at each other. "You wicked girl, wicked, that's what you are. You spat at me, you gutter snipe." Then very slowly, the humbug on the top of her glasses starts to slide down on her cheek. "Oh, it's alive," she's shouting. She snatches her glasses off, then she puts her hand in her pocket to get out her hanky to wipe her face, I suppose. And of course the other one's in her pocket, isn't it? So this one falls out onto the floor as well. Well, you never heard such a carry-on. "Ah, there's hundreds of them," she's yelling. "What are they? What are they?" So I shrugs and I says, "Humbugs. Just humbugs." How we all kept our faces straight, I'll never know. There was Miss Harper, shaking like I don't know what, holding onto her desk like grim death, with her knuckles turning white, and all the class trying not to laugh out loud. Well, she finally pulls herself together, pats her hair, wipes her glasses and puts them back on, and she says, very tense-like, "There's only one way to punish someone like you, Bronwen Tarrack, and that's the strap. Go and fetch it at once." She kept it in a big cupboard behind her desk, so I gets it and hands it to her. She takes it from me and all very calm-like folds it over double and then, "Put your left hand out, girl, and face front so that we can all see you. 6 should do it, I think." So she gives me 6 straps on my left hand, and I was about to walk away when she says, "I haven't finished yet. 6 on each hand it is." And she did it all over again on my other hand. Then I had to walk back to my desk, with everyone looking at me. Dead quiet they were. Oh, no, that was a day I shall never forget. Still, like I says to Daffod, it's all in the past now. He says, "Remember how I told you to put your hand on the radiator to take the sting out?" But like I told him at the time, no need. Skin like leather I have. Oh, we had a good laugh about it, the 3 of us. Funny how stories come back. But that's a reunion, isn't it? Ah, yes. It's like I reminded Gwyneth at the time her sister gave her a pair of high heels she'd finished with, and how she brought them to school with her in her lunch bag. Black they were, patent, 3 inches. And I told her, "You can't wear those in class. Miss Harper will kill you if she sees you in those." And she'd said, "No, they're for after school." Gwyneth said she didn't remember, but perhaps she didn't want to, being assistant head teacher like. And I said, "Well, I do. I says you had some cigarettes and nail varnish as well, and you said we might go along the wreck by the old air raid shelters and have a bit of fun, because you'd promised to meet Alan Morgan there, and you wanted him to see you in your high heels. He'll love me in these, you'd said. And I remember thinking, yes, I bet he will, because all the girls were after Alan Morgan, see. But he certainly had a soft spot for Gwyneth. Top heavy you are, girl, he used to say. You got to walk like a stick of barley sugar, all twists and curves. She loved it when he said that. And so did Alan Morgan when he saw her shoes. Oh, you're a real woman now, he says. Then he points at me and says, what do you have to bring her for? And you said, safety and numbers. Besides, she's my best friend. And I says, that's right, we're inseparable. Well, he says, I can manage both of you if I have to. Oh, won't be any need for that, I says. And I left you and went for a walk. Do you remember now, I says to Gwyneth? Yes, she says, a bit schoolmarmish like. Because I remember when I got back, there was you all tied to a tree, and Alan was sitting cross-legged at your feet, painting your toenails. And you said to me, we're playing cowboys and Indians. Alan's a cowboy and I'm an Indian squaw, and Alan's made me his prisoner. And Alan says, yes, and I'm putting her war paint on for her. And then he says, you can go away again and don't hurry back. So I did. And I didn't hurry back, did I? I don't know, but there was something about Gwyneth. Maybe I shouldn't have reminded her about that little escapade with Alan. Because she says very quiet, yes, I think he had a thing about nail varnish. It was the bright colour, I think. Of course, I don't wear it now. No, I noticed that, I says. But I wonder whatever happened to those shoes. I still got them, she says, very quiet-like. They're on my bedroom mantelpiece. I just can't bring myself to throw them out. Then almost as if she was thinking out loud, she says, yes, Alan Morgan. I wonder what happened to him. Oh, I married him, I said. He'll be here later on to collect me. You'll be able to say hello to him. Well, if she felt anything, she didn't let on. But I changed the subject anyway. Oh, and what of Miss Harper, I says. Whatever became of her? Dead long ago, I suppose. Oh, no, says Gwyneth. That's her in the chair. And say hello to her. She'd like that. Well, I looked where she was pointing, and there was this little old lady, all hidden under a big hat with a scrunched-up paper bag in her hand. To think how frightened we were of her, I says. And look at her now, not much more than a bag of bones. And who's the man holding her chair? That's not her brother. No, says Gwyneth, that's her husband. Very well off, retired now, of course. When we were driving back in the car, I says to Alan, do you sometimes wish you'd married Gwyneth instead of me? Don't be silly, he says. I married you, didn't I? Oh, I had a bit of a crush on Gwyneth, but so did all the boys. It's just a bit of fun. No, I always had my eye on you. You were always the girl for me, and you got to admit, I still make a good job of the nail varnish, don't I, Carrie Ann? But you know, sometimes I think it doesn't do to go back, because people change. Not always for the better, I suppose. Though, on the other hand, perhaps it does you good. Lets you see yourself in a new light. Bit sad seeing Miss Harper, though. Well, Mrs. Jones, as she is now. Saddest bit was when I went over to say hello. Remember me, I says, Bronwen Tarrack? And very slowly this wizened old face with the sad little eyes looks up at me, and she pushes this scrunched-up paper bag at me. Blah, 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 she goes, just like that. I looked up at her husband. It's all right, he says. My wife is offering you an humbug.
That was High Heels and Humbugs, written and presented by Patrick Fyffe, in character today as Bronwen Tarrack. Between Me and You was produced by John Fawcett Wilson.